How will air combat be conducted in the 5.5 generation? Let's have a brief discussion on this topic today. Among the drone equipment revealed this time, apart from the Attack 11 that was already unveiled at the 2019 National Day Parade, this time the naval version is exposed, which has folding wings. It is said to be named Attack 21, and there seems to be a number on the aircraft, Attack 21. It is a relatively large unmanned attack aircraft with a very large internal weapons bay. At least it can carry two 1,000 kilogram class bombs and has a quite good range. In the future, it will become a very important ground attack aircraft on the Type 76 amphibious assault ship. Our original view was that an aircraft should be equipped with as many devices as possible. For example, it would be best to install both radar and optoelectronic equipment on it. However, judging from the current situation, the Attack 11, or the naval version, Attack 21, is an aircraft that extremely emphasizes stealth capabilities. Therefore, its detection method is likely to be completely passive detection. It does not actively emit detection waves. So, whether it is the naval version or the Air Force version, we can conclude that neither is equipped with radar. Moreover, we can even see that the Attack 11 does not have an ETOS, electro-optical targeting system either. The ETOS is an integrated sensor that includes a laser function, but the Attack 21 completely lacks this system. In fact, it plays a very important role in our current ground attack operations on the battlefield, quite similar to the role of the US F-117 as a stealth ace weapon during the first Gulf War, and for a long period after that. It is very difficult for the enemy to detect it because it does not emit any signals itself. Currently, the revealed Attack 11 and Attack 21 are used to strike important enemy nodes, whether on the ground or at sea. As for the other drones mentioned later, after gaining complete air superiority, they will serve as battlefield communication nodes and conduct both reconnaissance and strike missions on the battlefield. They are capable of flying very close to the battlefield to launch attacks, but this is only after full air superiority has been achieved. In this case, their efficiency is much higher than that of the drones used in the Russia-Ukraine war. If the enemy claims that they have the ability to shoot them down, in reality, these drones are equipped with many sensors. Before being shot down, they can easily locate the enemy. In such a situation, attempting to shoot them down would inadvertently expose the enemy's own position. Let's first talk about the two unmanned fighter jets revealed this time. These unmanned fighter jets are quite interesting. The one with a DSI, diverterless supersonic inlet, clearly has an ETOS electro-optical sensor below it, just like the J-20 and J-35, which both have such an ETOS electro-optical port. This aircraft adopts a DSI inlet and has trapezoidal wings. We can clearly see that it has distinct trapezoidal wings. Previously, by looking at the engine nozzle, I thought it was quite similar to the WS-21 Turbofan 21 engine. However, after verification from multiple sources, it turned out that the two unmanned fighter jets revealed this time are actually equipped with the Taihang engine, namely the WS-10 Turbofan 10. Given that these are unmanned fighter jets, there is a relatively high demand for their range. Under this circumstance, we can basically determine that their maximum takeoff weight is at least not less than that of the original J-10. This is quite remarkable because we know that the J-10 is larger in size than the F-16. This means that we are using an unmanned aircraft configuration larger than the F-16 as a fighter jet configuration, which can be said to completely change the pattern of many battlefields. Earlier, Yang Ji from Observer Network said that these two are dogfight fighters, but I don't think so, because when we look at the pictures, they are actually quite different from the Unmanned Combat Air Vehicle, UCAV, designed by the US for dogfighting back in the day. Looking at these two aircraft, we can see that they actually place more emphasis on their stealth performance rather than their dogfighting capabilities. If they were intended for dogfighting, you would at least add canards in the front, right? But moreover, both of these two aircraft adopt side-mounted inlets. If you want to engage in dogfighting relies on high angles of attack. In such cases, it is actually better to use a belly-mounted inlet. Additionally, many people online have speculated about the size of these two fighter jets, especially the one with the DSI inlet and trapezoidal wings. It is believed that this unmanned aircraft is longer than the J-10. Even if it is not longer than the J-10, if it can reach the length of the Xiaolong JF-17, its internal weapons bay can at least carry air-to-air missiles of the PL-15 level. In this case, it has the capability to engage in medium-range air combat, so it would be quite foolish to use it for short-range combat. Furthermore, we can also see that the engine nozzles of these two unmanned fighter jets are equipped with convergent flaps. Basically, we can determine that the WS-10 engines they are equipped with have an afterburner function. Therefore, it can be seen that both of these two unmanned fighter jets have supersonic capabilities. As for the other two drones, personally, I think all four of these drones are actually loyal wingmen, because loyal wingmen are used to assist the lead aircraft, whether it is helping the lead aircraft with situational awareness or assisting in attacks. However, some people now say that the latter two are fully autonomous, unmanned fighter jets. But judging from the relevant papers that have been exposed later, the final attack decision still requires human intervention. It is impossible to do without human intervention. Because if you rely entirely on AI might think that to win the war, it is best to minimize the number of targets on the battlefield. If there is a manned aircraft commanding nearby, it might expose the target and emit radio signals. So AI might simply shoot down its own manned aircraft. Act independently like Lu Bu, a famous warrior in ancient China, known for his bravery and independence. Charge into the battlefield and not want a dead weight following behind. Therefore, the final attack still requires human intervention. Therefore, personally, I think it is unlikely for them to conduct fully autonomous air combat. As for achieving fully autonomous air combat, we will have to wait for the 7th generation aircraft. Currently, I personally estimate that the level of AI is still not sufficient. Another unmanned aircraft adopts a lambda wing design, but it has a very interesting feature. It does not have ETOS equipment. Instead, it uses a carrot inlet. We have discussed domestic papers before, and these papers actually mention that with the current level of technology, DSI inlets cannot yet be made adjustable. However, carrot inlets can now be made adjustable in engineering practice. For example, our country's J-36 is also equipped with a carrot inlet, and Russia's Su-57 is also equipped with a carrot inlet, which is an adjustable inlet. In this case, its speed adaptation range is wider. Therefore, these two unmanned attack aircraft, this is just my personal guess, are likely to have different capabilities. It is possible that the one with the lambda wing design and no ETOS equipment has supercruise capability, while the other one may not have supercruise capability. Moreover, we can now see that the wingtips of both of these two drones are movable, which is somewhat similar to the J-50, a hypothetical advanced aircraft model, as both adopt this movable wingtip structure. As mentioned earlier, the maximum takeoff weight of these two aircraft should be at least at the level of the J-10. When cooperating with manned aircraft in combat, the effect will be quite significant. We will continue to discuss this later. From the details, it can be seen that there are quite a few differences between these two drones. Let's take a look at the other two drones again. Previously, I personally thought that the one in the lower right corner might replace the WZ-8, a Chinese supersonic reconnaissance drone. But now, based on the videos exposed by CCTV and the information I have obtained from various sources, this drone is actually not intended to replace the WZ-8. Instead, it still plays a role in battlefield situational awareness and serves as part of the loyal wingmen. In the future, for unmanned wingmen, whether they are matched with 5th generation or 6th generation aircraft, they will form a cluster. They will not be a single type of aircraft. This drone looks quite sci-fi in appearance. Apart from having a vertical tail, we will have to wait and see whether the vertical tail will be removed in the next step. The treatment of the exhaust nozzle of this drone should be at the same level as that of the Attack 11. It may play a role in reperceiving the battlefield. Currently, it can be seen that this drone is relatively small in size, so it should not be able to be equipped with a weapons bay anymore, because the range of a drone is still very important. As for the drone in the upper left corner, in fact, it has a quite long weapons bay on its belly. Moreover, from the drones announced this time, it can be seen that this drone is not very large in size. It also adopts a subsonic lambda wing structure. Therefore, it is very likely that its role on the battlefield is to suppress the communication nodes and command nodes on the ground and at sea. Now, it can be seen that loyal wingmen have their own specific roles. It is impossible to integrate all functions into a single aircraft. Doing so would result in the drone being too costly, making it unaffordable to lose. Currently, it can be seen that the weapons bay of this drone is quite long. Previously, I thought that it could only carry small guided bombs or small drones for consumable situational awareness inside, but now it seems that this is not the case. From the exposed photos, its weapons bay is quite long, so it is very likely that it can internally carry anti-radiation missiles and our country's new generation supersonic ground attack missiles. It is mainly used to strike time-sensitive targets of the enemy. It mainly relies on kinetic energy, and its warhead power is not very large. Of course, the warhead weight is probably less than 100 kilograms, and the total weight of the missile is also not very large, probably less than 500 kilograms. Of course, this type of supersonic missile that can strike the enemy's time-sensitive targets itself has strong situational awareness capabilities and a relatively good stealth structure. These several drones actually form a combination. In fact, this is similar to the mosaic warfare concept proposed by the US. To realize mosaic warfare, a large number of drones are actually needed for coordination. We can see that the F-35 actually plays a role in battlefield decision-making. It mainly makes decisions on the battlefield about whether to launch an attack. In fact, it cooperates with a large number of drones, including the green-colored ones, which are actually long-endurance drones on the battlefield. Here, we can see that different colors represent different types of drones. Finally, for the US F-35 to realize the so-called mosaic warfare theory, it will have to wait until after 2029, when the F-35 Block 4 generation of aircraft is launched. The current F-35 does not have the capability to realize this. Including a large number of drones that are supposed to cooperate with it, they are still in the test flight phase, and several of them have even been canceled. Moreover, the mosaic warfare theory was proposed a bit too early, just like the Netfire system proposed by the US Army at that time, because the hardware and software facilities at that time did not actually support the mosaic warfare theory. Now we can see that with the commissioning of the J-20S, J-20A, and J-35, our country has actually achieved the design concept of mosaic warfare proposed by the US back then. Moreover, domestically, multiple exercises have actually been conducted. We can see from the videos shown at the Zhuhai Air Show that the J-20 has actually carried out a large number of experiments and practices on the mosaic warfare theory. When the J-20 is deployed on the battlefield, the drones in front of it are just sketched, but we can clearly see that there are at least 3 types of drones. Some slightly smaller ones in the front, some larger ones at the back, and some even smaller ones in the middle. Personally, I feel that the smallest drones are used to play the role of battlefield communication relays. The larger drones can be either air combat drones or ground attack drones. The drones at the front are used for situational awareness. Including a paper previously published by Northwestern Polytechnical University, I found this paper online. If you are interested in this paper, I will later post it on my personal DC channel and upload the PDF there. You can download it if you want. At that time, the paper published by Northwestern Polytechnical University set the performance of the J-20 to be only about 85% of that of the F-22. It intentionally set its own performance lower. Under this circumstance, through the networking of unmanned aircraft to confront the F-22, it was found that if the J-20 can command drones through unmanned aircraft networking, its effect in attacking the enemy's 5th-generation aircraft is very good. Basically, it can achieve the same combat effect as the F-22 had against the US 3rd generation and 4th generation aircraft, such as the F-16, F-15, and F-18, with a kill ratio of 1. From this, we can see that it is mentioned that the cooperating drones actually have the capabilities of maneuver decision-making and attack decision-making, but the final decision still needs to be made by the manned aircraft for overall decision-making. The final decision-making power still lies with the manned aircraft. In fact, for the drones, their maneuvering is completely managed by themselves. As for the attack plan, that is, how to attack the enemy's air targets or ground targets, the plan is determined by the drones themselves. They have the ability to select the most suitable attack angle or the optimal position to enter the battlefield. It is not like what everyone imagines, where there is a person remotely controlling how to attack, like in the Russia-Ukraine war. The person only plays a role in making the final decision on whether to attack or not. Including what we can see, in the battlefield system of these drones, in addition to providing guidance, they also protect the lead aircraft, and some drones can even jam missiles. In such cases, we can see that these drones actually have situational awareness capabilities. In fact, for the manned aircraft behind, it can be far away from the battlefield. We all know that the US AIM-260 is still in the testing phase, and it will take a long time for it to be commissioned. As we all know, our country's PL-16 has already been commissioned, and the range of the PL-16 is longer than that of the PL-15. In this case, I believe that for manned aircraft, including the J-20, they can stay far away from the enemy on the battlefield and rely entirely on air networking to allow the two unmanned fighter jets revealed at the 93 parade to launch attacks. Moreover, it is very difficult for the enemy to detect these two unmanned fighter jets that are used for attacks, because we can see that these two unmanned fighter jets actually attach great importance to their stealth performance. Both of them have no vertical tails, and they don't even have canards. Therefore, personally, I don't believe that they are mainly used for dogfighting. Furthermore, as long as the J-20 is far enough away from the battlefield, the enemy will not have the opportunity to approach it. Moreover, it is easier to produce a large number of these drones. Whether compared with the J-20 or the J-35, it is easier to scale up their production. Another major advantage compared with manned aircraft is that after these drones roll off the production line, they can be delivered to the troops after simple test flights and directly have combat capabilities. Unlike manned aircraft such as the J-20 or J-35, after being delivered to the troops, it takes a long time for the troops to form combat capabilities. Therefore, the wartime production capacity of these aircraft that can enter combat immediately after leaving the factory becomes very significant. Because we all know that although the flight operations of the J-20 and J-35 have become easier, the training time for pilots has actually become longer. Because pilots have more things to learn, it is relatively not so easy to increase their numbers during wartime. The biggest advantage of these two unmanned fighter jets is that they have no crew, so it is very easy to increase their production capacity during wartime. Moreover, it can be seen now that these drones are not the kind that require an operator to control them remotely from behind. In fact, they have quite strong autonomous strike capabilities on the battlefield. Moreover, it is understood that these two unmanned fighter jets are not actually the ones that will cooperate with the future J-36. The level of the unmanned fighter jets that will cooperate with the future J-36 will be more advanced than those revealed at the 93 parade. In fact, it can be said that the drones revealed this time are all used to cooperate with the current generation of manned aircraft, such as the J-20S and J-35, including aspects such as battlefield communication speed, battlefield information update speed, and the number of drones that can be commanded by a single manned aircraft. Based on various domestic relevant papers, it can be seen that currently, the capability of a single manned aircraft to command drones is roughly only 3 to 5. By the time of the J-36 generation, the future 6th generation aircraft, it will actually be possible for one aircraft to command more drones. It may even happen that only one J-36 is needed on a battlefield, and all others are drones. The J-36 will make the final decision on whether to attack on the battlefield, and the rest will be completely handled by the drones. However, the current 5.5 generation aircraft do not have this capability yet. Their battlefield network and supporting hardware and software do not yet support one aircraft commanding dozens or even hundreds of drones for air combat. At the Zhuhai Air Show, we saw that drone swarms can be formed with hundreds of drones, but this type of drone swarm is mainly used for battlefield situational awareness and striking ground time-sensitive targets. However, for air combat, the difficulty is actually on a completely different level. Currently, we still do not have the capability to form such a large-scale drone swarm for air combat. Moreover, it can be seen that the drones revealed this time are a completely matched set of drones. In this case, if some of the subsequent functions of these drones are removed, they will actually have great value for export. Because as we just talked about, the two unmanned fighter jets revealed later are at least no smaller in size than the J-10. The Attack-11 itself is also quite large in weight, with a longer range than the F-35. Its internal weapons carrying capacity is similar to that of the F-35A and F-35C, and its stealth effect is completely better than that of the F-35. In this case, if a country buys this set of equipment, it may even not need to buy the J-35. Or, if we do not want some countries to have too strong ground attack capabilities, we can choose not to sell the Attack-11 and only sell the latter two unmanned fighter jets while removing some of their functions to reduce their performance. We can also reduce the capabilities of the loyal wingmen used for situational awareness. Currently, it can be seen that for our country, this type of situational awareness drone is already in a realm of freedom. In fact, the entire drone technology has reached this realm. Therefore, in this case, for small countries, they do not have sufficient battlefield system resources and support capabilities, and they actually cannot even purchase a complete set of aircraft. Because they cannot purchase all kinds of aircraft, such as electronic jammers and other miscellaneous types. For example, many countries now use the same aircraft for both transport and refueling purposes. For instance, one of the selling points of Europe's A400M is that it can be used for both air transport and aerial refueling. In fact, for our country, if the A400M is used as an aerial refueling aircraft, it is actually too small, with a maximum takeoff weight of only 140 tons. Including Brazil's C390, one of the selling points of this aircraft is also its ability to perform both aerial refueling and air transport tasks. But its size is even smaller, with a takeoff weight of only 80 tons. For our country, as a major air force power, if we need to support a large number of aircraft on the battlefield, these aircraft are actually too small. However, for small countries, they cannot even purchase a complete set of aircraft, so having a little aerial refueling capability is sufficient. Therefore, in this case, if we reduce some of the performance of the WZ-9, a type of unmanned aircraft equipped with radar platform, and do not require it to have a too large air defense range, but only enable it to protect an air defense zone with an operational radius of about 200-300 kilometers for the country, and sell this set of unmanned systems to them, we may even not need to sell the KJ-500 Airborne Early Warning and Control System aircraft. We can just sell them the networking capability of the WZ-9 with all controls placed on the ground to reduce costs. For air defense, they can rely on these unmanned fighter jets and unmanned attack aircraft. In fact, this can form a strong combat capability. Even for some blood allies or close allies, we may not even need to sell them unmanned early warning aircraft. We can just sell them these situational awareness drones. They don't even need to buy the J-35. They can just buy these unmanned fighter jets. In the event of a real war, it is unclear who will have control. You can say it is in the hands of the blood ally, or you can say it is in the hands of others. This is unclear. Therefore, the set of aerial unmanned equipment displayed at the 93 parade this time has basically brought air combat to a new height. It can be said that our country is truly the first to achieve 5.5 generation combat capabilities. Of course, according to European standards, this would be equivalent to the 6th generation standard, because the level of drones in Europe is even worse than that of the US. Currently, it can be seen that the several types of drones developed by the US are at a relatively low level. Their level is even lower than that of the drones in the third row of the revealed drones this time. The several types of drones they have revealed so far are all relatively small. After checking relevant information, including the MQ-28 developed by the US, in Australia, the MQ-28 is actually not impressive either. Its engine adopts the FJ-44, a type of engine with a thrust of only about 2 tons. In fact, it is even smaller than the 2 unmanned fighter jets revealed this time. As for unmanned fighter jets, unfortunately, the US military does not even have a concept image, CG. All existing images are either from US netizens' CG creations or from their comics.